Because this is your first section of notes, I just want to make sure you understand what's necessary on the note sheets for you to use them as a ticket to get the worksheet. First of all, they must be done on a 3-hole punch sheet of Cornell Notes paper that goes in your binder. And each sheet has to be titled with the section. You don't have to put the objective on it because we'll put that right here. So these are notes for Section 1.1, obviously they need a name, and also required for these is a date because we're going to be doing these at all different dates once we get going. Some of you are going to be moving faster along, so I do want you to put the date that you're watching these right here. And then they all need an essential question so we know what our goal is with these notes. And for this section, it's going to be how do I add polynomials. And because you all have had prior exposure to this class and you know what a polynomial is, we don't need to go through all that vocabulary. We're just going to do 2 examples and that's it. So your notes are always going to be just short little snippets. When they're done and you've taken them neatly and you've shown me, then I give you the worksheet that goes with this section. So how do I add polynomials? The answer to that question, actually, I'm going to start right away before I do an example, is I'm going to answer that question. Really, adding and subtracting of polynomials all involves, at its root level, you just combine like terms. So what we need to do before we do an example is define what we mean by like terms and also understand that we are combining them and they're the same things so that when we put them together they don't change. What I mean by that is if you have 2 apples and 5 more apples, you obviously have 7 apples. You've combined together a bunch of like things and you have 7 like apples. And so notice they didn't change into oranges or anything weird. You might say, well, it's a dumb analogy. We're not adding fruit. We're not. But what I mean is when you do x squared plus x squared, let's write that off on the side here. It's really tempting to think that that's x to the 4th because you're kind of staring at a 2 plus 2 there. But I have one of those and I'm combining it or adding it to another of those, which gives me 2 of those. Point at that and notice, put a little set of eyeballs on there, and your notes need to have these details on them or I'll send you back to watch them. So if you're not keeping up, just pause and catch up. So notice that that exponent did not change. And it's because I'm combining like terms. Well, what makes these 2 terms like terms? And there's 2 things that have to happen for terms to be like terms. Number 1, so let's go right underneath here. In order to be considered like terms, they must have the same variable. And I'm going to even put in parentheses a little s there. The same variables. You can't add x's with y's. They also have to be to the same power. Now that might seem obvious, but it's really tempting to say again that x to the 3rd plus x squared is x to the 5th because you're staring at 3 plus 2. But those aren't like terms. I've got x cubes being put together with x squareds, and because they're not like terms, I can't combine them. This is actually, until someone tells you what x is, this is done. So we just have to be real careful that we only combine our like terms, and then when we do, we don't mess with the exponent. And then it's a pretty easy task. So we are going to do only one example, and then we'll be done. So really short little note snippets. You won't be taking half-hour notes or anything like that. They'll be nice and short and sweet. You just got to make sure they're perfect. So we're going to add 2 polynomials here. I'm going to have you add 4x cubed plus 2x squared minus x plus 7. That's my first polynomial. And we're going to add to it another one. And that one's going to be 3x cubed minus 5x minus 9. So I've got two polynomials that I'm going to add together. And like I said, it's all about like terms. So what I like to do, instead of lining them up vertically or instead of rewriting it with the like terms next to each other, what I want you to be doing on your worksheet is go and circle your like terms. And I always want you to start with the highest power first. So really in my head, what I'm doing is I'm taking my 4x cubes and I'm adding to it 3 more x cubes, which gives me 4 plus 3 gives me 7 of those. Notice that that is not a 6. We do not change those. We keep them the same. Then I'm going to go to my next set of like terms, and my next highest power is this 2, and it has no like terms to go with it. It has no friends, and so it just gets written as is right here. The next thing I do is I go locate my terms that have x's, and notice when I'm circling these, I'm taking the sign with it. So I'm circling the negative x, and I'm circling right here a minus 5x. So what I have here, when you don't see the coefficient, I want you to go put a little 1 in here. This is details on your notes that need to be there in order for you to get the worksheet for this section. So if you're not writing those details down, I'm going to send you back to go watch the video again. So nice and slow, but you have to have all the details in there. So when I'm combining those x's, I have negative one of them. And I'm going to write that off to the side so you see this is where the mistake tends to come in. And I'm doing plus, and right here I have negative 5 of them. And with negatives, sometimes it's good to think of temperature. Kind of think of this as being 1 below, and I'm going 5 more below. It's kind of like temperature. It's already 1 degree, and it's dropping 5 more degrees. I'm going to be at a minus 6 x's. So you could write plus a negative 6x, but we usually just write that as minus 6x. And you might be thinking, yeah, but my teacher said 2 negatives make a positive. They do it if you're multiplying or you're dividing. But when you're combining them, a bunch of negatives walk into a room and sit down with a bunch of more negatives, you end up with a whole bunch of negatives. If you're just combining them or adding them, they don't change. So the next one, I have what we call our constants at the end here. I have a positive 7, and I'm adding to it a negative 9. So again, think temperature. It's 7 above 0, and it drops 9 degrees. I'm going to be at a minus 2. And I'm going to put that in a box, and that's my final answer. So once these notes are taken, just so you get the process, when you're done, I want you to write a little summary at the bottom here. And because this is the first day, I'm going to write it for you, but as the semester progresses, you'll be writing your own. I want you to summarize what I just said. I only gave you 8 minutes of notes here, but what did I talk about in those 8 minutes? Really just one basic thing today. I just said that to add polynomials, I combine like terms. And that's it. You are now done with this set of notes, and you can gain access to the worksheet 1.1. Have a good one, guys.